You're listening to the Touchdown Under podcast with Jack, Emilian, Anthony, and Ruth. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Touchdown Under podcast. This is episode 6. I'm Jack, your host, and as always, I'm joined by Emilian.
Hey, how's it going?
Anthony.
Good to be back.
And Ruth.
Happy to be here.
We've got a really fun episode planned for you guys today. On this week's episode, we'll be discussing our opinions on every team which unveiled new uniforms this off-season. Then we'll go over our 6 choices of teams which we believe need a uniform upgrade or change. And finally, we'll discuss our top 5 favourite uniforms in the league. But before that, we'll get into our news segment. And making news this week in the league was Dak Prescott, who recently signed his $31.4 million franchise tender this week with Dallas. Prescott and the Cowboys have until July 15 to negotiate a long-term deal, otherwise he'll become an unrestricted free agent to begin the 2021-22 season. Boys, what do we think?
I think that it's good that Dak gets a little bit more time to decide what he wants to do. I think it would be... I don't think the Cowboys should keep him on. I don't think he's done enough to prove that he should be paid that much money for a team that's barely had any success with him. And I think it'd be very interesting to see what he could do as a free agent and where he would end up in the 2021 season.
Yeah, it's important for him that he's got this time to think about his future. Yeah, I agree with you, Mel. I don't think he'd be a good suit for the Cowboys going forward, like in terms of a long-term deal. But then again, it does give both parties that time to figure out where they stand.
Yeah, I agree. Honestly, it will be interesting to see. This season is really important for him, for us to see if he's capable of being that starter and taking the Cowboys to the playoffs.
It will be interesting to see Dak test the market next season if they don't get a long-term deal done, because I feel like Jerry Jones is the only guy who will pay Dak anywhere close to how much he wants.
Yeah. In
other NFL news, free agent quarterback Colin Kaepernick has reportedly received legitimate interest from multiple teams, according to NFL.com's Michael Silver. Boys?
I think it'll be good if he gets an opportunity as a backup quarterback in the NFL. I do believe he is of that caliber right now. I don't think he's quite a starting quarterback right now, but I am very interested to see him in a backup role.
Yeah, I'm not too sure how much he's proven himself since he last had a job in the NFL, if he's worthy of being a backup. But then again, the report that says he has legitimate interest from certain teams, so I hope that this is real and he can get himself into a roster.
Yeah, he's turning 33 later in the year. I'm not sure how many teams would be interested in signing him to a contract where he'd have to be a starting quarterback. There's a couple teams in the AFC that need some quarterback depth. Maybe he'll get a go there.
I agree. I think there are a few spots where he could potentially land if a deal were to be made. He is also reportedly in the best shape of his life, which hopefully bodes well for him getting a chance somewhere. So now we move into our discussion of our opinions on every team which unveiled new uniforms this off-season. And first we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but before we get to that, should mention that if you would like to follow along with us on YouTube, where we have images of all of these new uniforms, then feel free to do so. So now with the Buccaneers, I really like these new uniforms. They're definitely an improvement on the previous ones, in my opinion. The use of orange in these new jerseys to honour their past orange uniforms is very nicely done, especially compared to the use of orange in their previous uniforms. I also like that they decided to keep the grey helmets with the red Buccaneers flag on the side. I think it works especially well with their new grey alternate uniform.
I love these jerseys a lot. My biggest problem with their old ones was that there was too much going on with the jersey. I mean, the font looked a bit too off. It looked too much to me. There was just a bad combination of colours everywhere. Here they've gone for a simplistic approach. They've just made each jersey one colour. And I really like the subtle orange lining on the numbers here. I think it really works well, and I really do love the all greyish brown uniform here.
Yeah, for the most part, I agree with. I reckon these are an upgrade from what they had last season. But I wish they had somehow been able to incorporate the numbers they had on their old uniforms into these. I reckon they had a lot of character. These uniforms as a whole, as you said, Jack, honouring their past, what they used to wear, especially with their current home one that they've unveiled. they do, highlight that the old Buccaneers look they had in the 2000s, which is something I really like. Also, that brownish silver looking throwback color rush uniform, I reckon looks really good. How the helmet and the whole uniform is like the same color.
Yeah, I agree. I do like the color scheme of that alternate jersey. I feel like some teams go for a new, more modern look like the Rams, but the Buccaneers went back to their roots with this one. As Anthony mentioned, I agree. The font they used in their old uniform really suits the Buccaneers.
Yeah.
But I don't mind this one they used this time around. It looks really good on the away jersey. And as you mentioned, Emilian, the orange touch is quite subtle yet visually appealing.
Now we move on to the Atlanta Falcons, who of course also got new uniforms. I think the throwback alternate uniform is the highlight among this new Falcons uniform set. I don't necessarily dislike these new uniforms, but I'm also not the biggest fan. The one thing I do really like about these new uniforms, however, is the larger than normal ATL above the numbers. I think it works quite well as an ode to the city of Atlanta.
I love the throwback and I hate the home, away, and alternate. The font is the biggest problem for me in the main three jerseys here. I mean, I feel like they tried too hard to make it unique and it fell short in my opinion. I don't like the small shadow they have there behind the numbers. And I really don't like the large lettering of the ATL. I think it looks too much like a college jersey in my opinion. And I'm not a big fan. I also don't like the red fading to black on that jersey there. I don't think it looks good. We haven't seen it yet on field, but I don't have high hopes for it.
Yeah, I don't understand why they've gone for that gradient look. There's also, I don't think there's enough red in these uniforms. The only aspect of red you truly, really get is in that gradient jersey between the red and black. I think that'll be annoying to look at on TV if you see that matte black helmet with the silver grille and the red and transition to black. It'd be too much for me. But as you said, Emilian, that throwback uniform that they've kept largely untouched, I think it looks really good. That will work well with the matte black helmet. So overall, for me, do not like these at all.
Yeah, the throwback uniform really is the highlight here. It's awesome as it was last season. I actually don't mind the two-tone gradient in the alternate jersey. The Falcons call it their Rise Up jersey. However, I do think the font size completely ruins the other jerseys, both with the numbers and the lettering above it with the ATL. The Falcons also said they made their logo on their helmet 30% larger. I really don't see the necessity in doing so. However, the chrome outline does add a nice touch.
I think the red and black gradient uniform does have a chance to be successful. It is quite a unique feature as there really isn't anything like any other NFL uniforms, which I think if we see it on a field, it does have the potential to succeed, but obviously we don't know just yet. Next up, we have the Cleveland Browns. These new Browns uniforms are really quite average in my opinion. They're not bad, but there's also nothing particularly special or eye-catching about them. The highlight of this new Cleveland uniform set is the redesigned Color Rush uniform. Honestly, I wish they would have just made their Color Rush uniform their new home uniform and an inverted version as their new away uniform. I believe it would have looked much fresher instead of this relatively ordinary look.
I quite like these uniforms. Actually, as you said, there's nothing very special about them, but to me they're clean and they look quite elegant. While I do like the all-brown Color Rush, I didn't like it as the home jersey for the Browns last year. They wore it most of the time at home, and I found it particularly boring when it didn't feel as special as when they wear it every now and then.
But what's wrong with it as just the normal home uniform?
I think it works really well as an alternate uniform where they wear it once, twice, 3 times a season. I quite like that. I think this home jersey here looks very good. I quite like the stripes as well and the shoulder pads there. I think they add a little bit of complexity to the otherwise quite simple looking uniform, and I'm quite a big fan of these.
Yeah, I like these uniforms a lot because what it looks like they've done is they've gotten the best parts of the uniforms over the last couple of years and kind of meshed them together to create these. I really like the stripes around the shoulder pads. I think they look really good. Apart from that, it's a very boring uniform. So I think that provides the most part of the appeal for me. Unfortunately, with the Color Rush uniform, which was their home uniform last year, as you mentioned, Emilian, they got rid of the struts on the shoulder pads. For me, those uniforms were one of the best in the league. I know it's an opinion, but without the stripes, they're just a boring colour rush jersey with not much appeal.
I really like the traditional look they went with here. The away jersey, in my opinion, last season looked really bland, and I like the updated one a lot better, especially with the addition of those stripes. Like you said, with the Colour Rush jersey, it's a bit annoying, I guess, that they got rid of those stripes on the shoulders, yet it's still a pretty visually appealing jersey. Sometimes simple works well in this league, and I think the Browns succeeded with this design. I feel like they could have been a little more creative with their socks, though.
Yeah, I think you mentioned, Jack, there's not really much special about these. I think that's what makes these uniforms good. They're not overdoing it like we've seen with the Falcons uniforms. They're going back to the basics, and I think they've done a really good job here.
I just want to mention that I can't think of a great way to make a uniform where brown is the main colour. Honestly, it's such a hard colour to work with, especially when you want to make it the prominent feature of your uniform.
Roof, I just wanted to ask you about your comment about the socks. I'm just not sure what they could have done more to make the socks better.
I don't see what they did with their home uniform.
Yep.
I don't understand why they went with that separated look. Unlike their away jerseys, I prefer the stripes on their away jerseys. I don't see anything like truly wrong with it. I think they could have done it a bit better though.
Yeah, I think that the reasoning for the white in between the orange stripes there is just to match the stripes on the shoulder pad.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough.
Now we move on to the Patriots, who of course changed from their old uniforms to what they were previously known as their colour rush uniforms. I really like New England's idea of reinventing their uniforms for the start of the post-Brady era. Furthermore, the reinvention itself is brilliant. Their colour rush uniform worked really well in my opinion, so I have no issue with them making the permanent change. The stripes on the shoulders of the uniforms is a really nice touch as well.
As I said with the Browns uniforms, these are good. There's nothing really that special about them. I mean, it's just the home uniform is their colour rush uniform from last season, but I do like this new away jersey with the red stripes on the shoulder pads. I think it looks very good and quite unique. And yeah, honestly, I don't have too many complaints about this. I just think they're quite average. They look good, but nothing really special.
Yeah. So similar to what I said about the Browns uniform, as like the Patriots keeping this kind of, simplistic. I think this looks really good that they've done that. They haven't gone for something too crazy. Like they've gone as simple as just getting a uniform that has a colour rush and just making it their home uniform. It's a simple addition they've made, and I think it looks really good.
Yeah, I agree with all the points you guys made. Like you said, Jack, I think the stripes on the shoulders look great. The red outline on the away jerseys numbers is also a nice touch, and I like how they stuck with the grey helmet design.
Yeah.
Hopefully it provides them with some success for the post-Brady era. Now we move on to the Los Angeles Chargers, who also had new uniforms. These new Chargers uniforms are a monumental upgrade from their previous ones, in my opinion. Each of the 6 uniform combinations look brilliant. They've managed to keep the design simple while still ensuring each uniform has a really sleek look about it. The best uniform of these 6 combinations is easily the navy blue alternate uniform, in my opinion. The navy coloured bolts look so clean on the pants, shoulders and helmet. I think this would be a fan favourite for years to come. The royal blue alternate uniform is also a beauty. The Chargers have absolutely struck gold here in terms of mastering the colour schemes. And I also like the player numbers on the helmets, as it's an old school, unique look.
These are absolutely incredible uniforms. They basically took their old uniforms they had and just made them simpler, and it just works so well. I definitely prefer these over their old ones. I love the combination of the blue jersey with the yellow pants here, but my favourite, as you said, Jack, is, in my opinion, the best one here, is the all navy blue colour rush there. I think that having just outlines of the bolts works so well here, and I really like the different approach they took with the logo on the helmet.
I know this is an unpopular opinion, but I don't think these are a step up from their old uniforms. I don't like the simplistic design of the bolt on the pants without that white stripe on the side, and also that white stripe surrounding the bolt on the shoulder pads. I think they look nicer on their old uniforms. Also, for me, I really don't like the colour of yellow on the for those pants combined with the white and that light shade of blue. Doesn't look very good to me. Well, but the only thing I do like about these uniforms is the introduction of the numbers on the helmet. I do think that looks pretty good, but they're actually the numbering of the numbering itself doesn't look very good in my opinion. They could have gone for a nicer font. The old font they had looked really good in my opinion. So I don't think this is a good step up for me. I know it's an unpopular opinion.
Well, I know in my opinion, I think these jerseys are definitely a step up on the old jerseys. However, I can see where you're coming from. With those yellow pants, I think they would have looked better if they incorporated that yellow with the bit before the pants and the socks, like the bit in between. Yeah. I think if that wasn't blue, it would have worked a lot better. But apart from that, these Chargers jerseys are awesome. I also am a big fan of the all navy color rush, but I prefer the royal blue. Such a simplistic look, I think, works really well.
Yeah. So, what bit are you referring to? I don't quite follow.
So, in between the white bit of the socks and the yellow of the pants, there's the blue area. I don't think that particularly... I mean, of course it works on their home jersey. I don't think it works too well on their away jersey with their yellow pants.
Anthony, I disagree with your point about the yellow pants. I think they look quite brilliant with both the home and away jerseys. Now, we move on to the Los Angeles Rams. The Rams' rebranding has been a failure in my opinion. These uniforms aren't a disaster, but they're certainly not very good. The name patch on the breast doesn't work at all, and the helmet is a massive downgrade from their previous one. The colour scheme might have worked if the designs of the uniforms were better. Honestly, if it were up to me, I would have made their previous colour rush uniform their permanent home uniform and an inverted version as their new away uniform.
The helmet is great. I quite like it. As you said, Jack, it is a downgrade from what they had before, but I still think it works. I do like the font of the numbers themselves. I just really hate the gradient from yellow to white. And I know you can't see it here, but if you actually look at the jerseys on the NFL shop, the numbers do have a sort of texture to them where it looks like the Rams horn outline. I don't like that much at all. I think when it comes to numbers, they should not have any texture to them. I think they should just be flat and clean. I also hate the lettering there of the Rams on the upper left shoulder. I just think it looks awful and so out of place. The uniforms as a whole, they're just so bland. I loved the Rams look they had last season, with the blue jersey and the yellow pants, and it's such a shame to see that one go away.
I don't know if I'd call it bland just because I don't think there's a bland look about it. It's just that they've done a few unique things in terms of the gradient, that texturing you talked about, and the patch. Even though none of them are actually good, they are actually unique features, so I wouldn't go as far as to call it bland. Anthony?
I think these uniforms as a whole are actually not that bad, and they're probably receiving more hate than they should. I think, whilst I do agree that the gradient look on the numbers isn't particularly good, I do think it'll grow on people a lot. I think the name patch is just completely useless. We haven't, no team has had that in that top left corner on anyone's uniform for a reason. It's just not needed. We know who the Rams are. The away uniform, that bone colour...
What if you're a new watcher of the game and you know who they are?
Well, you probably look at the scoreboard and you can see that they're the Los Angeles Rams. But anyway, those the away uniforms that they have, that bone colour, there's been a lot of hate about them and they're being ugly, but I don't think they're that bad. I think that they'll grow on people, and especially in prime time, I don't think people will notice that they're that much different from a white colour, if you know what I mean. But overall, I think these are good jerseys. Good uniforms.
I really don't like the patch on the left breast. I think that it looks even worse on the away jersey because the patch itself isn't the same color as the jerseys.
The bone.
Yeah, the bone. I don't even understand that. That's a whole another conversation. I think, I remember last season when the Titans unveiled their jerseys, we especially weren't really fans of it, but I'm gradually... Yeah, I mean, we're fans of them now, but
I liked it at the time as well.
I'm gradually warming up to the numbers on the jersey. I think originally when I saw them, I didn't like them. I still don't think it works too well on the bone colour though. They should have done what the Falcons did and probably kept their throwback jersey. I also love their old color rush as well.
The thing with that, Arif, is I don't think they could have kept the throwback jersey because it's a different brand altogether. Like the branding and the actual design of the logo itself is different now. So whereas the Falcons is the same, so it would have been hard to go and keep the old brand. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So now we move on to teams that are due for new uniforms. We've come together to choose 6 that we think need new uniforms, and we'll go from the team that we think least needs a new uniform and work up to the team that we think most needs a uniform. So at the bottom we have the Carolina Panthers, and frankly I don't believe the Panthers require new uniforms at all. I think their current look still works relatively well, and I'm quite a fan of their all teal color rush uniform.
I'm with you, Jack. I quite like Panthers uniforms as they are. I'm a fan of the black, white, and, as you said, the teal. I think they work really well. I don't think a change is necessary, and if they were to change them, I don't think it would be a good one. I think they would have a downgrade in uniforms.
I think if they were to change anything on these uniforms, it'd be just really fine details. Like, for example, if you notice on their pants, they got that black and blue kind of stripe. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
That's unnecessary. I think it looks ugly. That's probably the only part of the uniform that I think they need to change. If they were to make a more updated version of these, like I said, I don't think they need to, but if they were to, they could go for a numbering similar to the Giants or the Raiders. I think they look cleaner, but overall, they're pretty good uniforms.
At number 5, we have the Houston Texans. I don't necessarily dislike Houston's current uniforms. However, their current color rush uniform would work far better as their new home uniform. During the off-season, the Patriots did exactly what I'm proposing for the Texans, and in my opinion, it's been a success for New England. The all-blue look for the Texans works better than with the white pants, in my opinion, as well as the fact that Deshaun Watson is the only Houston quarterback to ever wear their current color rush uniform, making the uniform more likable in general.
I think the color scheme itself is okay. I'm a big fan of the teal. It's just, I think possibly a little tweak could be changing the font of the letters, possibly.
I agree. I don't think the colour scheme needs to change at all.
I agree with you, Jack. I quite like the Texans uniforms as they are. I think there is room for improvement to make them stand out a bit more because they look quite a bit bland. I mean, you've got the traditional colours, red, blue, and white. I disagree with your point about the Texans color rush being used as a home jersey. I think it works really well because it's only used every so often in a season. And I think I'd get bored of them quickly if they were worn pretty much all the time for the Texans home games.
I have no issues with these uniforms at all. As you said, Emilian, I reckon the variety in using the color rush uniform only on special occasions on primetime games works well. If they had to have a aspect of these uniforms changed, I would maybe have a lighter blue version for the color rush. I mean, I don't think it would be a good change, but if they had to have one change, it'd maybe be something that would look nice.
I think the Texans away jersey definitely needs a big upgrade. I think it's completely out of date. I mean, I've talked previously in this episode about how sometimes simplistic jerseys work, but I think for this one it's far too basic. But as I mentioned with the Panthers before, the color scheme itself with these Texans jersey are fine in my opinion.
At number 4, we have the Redskins. Frankly, I'd have an issue with the current Redskins uniforms. However, similar to the Dolphins, the only reason I'd suggest a change is because I much prefer their throwback alternate uniform. The darker shade of burgundy and the gold pants works brilliantly, as do the golden numbers and the throwback Redskins logo on the shoulder. I really think Washington should make the permanent change to make their throwback alternate uniform their new home uniform. The only improvement I'd make to the throwback alternate uniform is the helmet. I'd suggest creating a throwback helmet, implementing the throwback logo, which would better suit the rest of the uniform, instead of their normal light burgundy helmet.
I think my problem with the Washington Redskins uniform is kind of reflecting on my thoughts about the Redskins brand as a whole. I'm just not a fan of their name, logo, colour scheme, or uniforms, to be honest. I think the burgundy is quite a bad colour in general, And while the uniforms they have right now aren't horrible, they're just the result of a bad brand, in my opinion. That being said, I do like their ultimate throwback uniforms. As you said, Jack, they use a much darker shade of burgundy, and it works really well.
Yeah, I really agree with that comment that introducing the throwback uniform and making that the permanent uniform. The current uniforms, I think the issue for me is the gold pants. I think a lot of fans, in terms of like a uniform aspect, don't like that. With the throwback uniforms, you obviously got that like kind of beige cream color opposed to that gold color that they currently have. I think that looks really good, really nice, and contrasts well against that darker shade of burgundy. Also, with the logo they currently have, as well as being ugly on the helmet, I think you could go for a more like during the 60s. They had like a spear as their logo. I reckon going back to that, it wouldn't look as racist, but also it just looked much nicer on the uniform, especially having a all burgundy helmet without having those yellow and white stripes in the middle.
I don't have much to add here. I think you guys have really hit the nail on the head with the Redskins possibly shifting full-time to their throwback uniforms. I do want to make a point, though, about when you mentioned the helmets before, Jack. The NFL are thinking about possibly incorporating or like getting rid of the rule that you can only have one helmet. So it would be interesting to see if the Redskins could possibly have their current helmet and then maybe an alternate throwback style helmet as well.
The thing there is teams have been using alternate helmets in years previous. The Bears used an alternate helmet last season for one of their games, and so did the Falcons for their throwback alternate uniform.
Oh, I thought they had like a rule that you can only have one helmet, but yeah, I'm not sure.
You can paint over it and alter it, but you can actually have a completely different helmet. That's like the same one that the players use every week for safety reasons.
Oh, okay, because I thought possibly. So yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it would be an interesting.
You can have designs that are more complex. They aren't just painting over, I reckon.
It's like the Rams. They have two different helmets. They have the same helmet, but they just changed the color, the yellow and white last season.
Yeah.
At number 3, we have the Bengals. Cincinnati's current uniforms have an outdated feel about them, and so a fresh, more current design would help provide a much-needed upgrade. I feel that if the Bengals incorporated the design of their current colour rush uniform for their new uniforms, that it'd be a vast improvement. I suggest making Cincinnati's current colour rush uniform their new away uniform, and then using that same colour rush design for an all-black with orange detailing home uniform.
I think there's too much going on in these uniforms. I think that they're trying too hard to make each of the three colours, being white, black, and orange, too prominent, and they clash too much, in my opinion. I think just sticking to one base colour for the home and away, so having the black, just having that as the main colour for the jersey, and then having little hints of orange and yellow, orange and white, there would be far better. I do love the colour rush jersey they have right now, the all white. I think that would be a very good away option for the Bengals.
Yeah, I think with the current uniforms, obviously those tiger stripes on the shoulder pads, they add a lot of character. So as they are at the moment, they're not that bad. But I really like the idea of them adopting their colour rush jersey and making that their way and creating a inverted one with areas where it's white, make it black, and vice versa, so that you have a more simplistic design. Because I think there's too much going on with their current jersey, especially their away jersey. There's just an uneven amount of white and black and orange in bad places. So I reckon it's a small change they could make that would make their uniforms much, much better.
I agree, Anthony. I think, in my opinion, the most appealing thing about this jersey is those tiger stripes on the shoulder, but I definitely think they could replicate this on a newer, updated jersey, because these jerseys are severely outdated. I do like the point you guys made about the colour rush jersey maybe becoming the full-time away jersey. I think the Bengals are the one franchise that we can probably say for sure in the next few years they're going to definitely update their jerseys, because they look far too outdated.
At number 2, we have the Arizona Cardinals. The Cardinals would probably benefit from uniform upgrade, but in saying that, I don't necessarily dislike their current uniforms. However, if they were to upgrade from their current uniforms, a hint of yellow to represent the desert sun might work really well, depending on the design.
I think the uniforms they have right now are just very bland. There's nothing special about them. I really think if they gave them a new design and added some light brown, like deserty color, it could reflect the desert location of the team, and they could be far more unique and quite special.
Yeah. For me, I really dislike these uniforms. If there's any team in the league that needs to update their uniforms, it's the Cardinals. The balance between the white and that dull shade of red, it just doesn't really... There's not much excitement in these jerseys. I think I do really agree with your point of adding like a shade of yellow or some kind of desert kind of feel to them. But I reckon if they are to do that, they've got to be really careful working with white, red, and yellow. It'd be hard. It'd be easy to get that wrong. It could be, you know what I mean. So I think if they do unveil new uniforms, they should pretty much completely redo them. Also, the white helmet I don't think looks very appealing, especially with that cardinal logo at the side.
Yeah, that is a good point about that dull red colour you mentioned, Anthony. I think that could, maybe using a brighter shade of red could spice up this jersey a bit. To incorporate that yellow brownish colour into the jersey would make a lot of sense considering their geographic location. I wouldn't mind seeing a yellow outline of some sort around the shoulder area or possibly even the numbers. I don't have an issue with the jersey itself, but I think they're definitely in need of an update.
So now we move on to number 1, and we have the Miami Dolphins. We identified Miami because I believe they should make the permanent change to what they currently wear as their throwback alternate uniform. The design is far better than their current uniforms, and the darker shade of aqua works much better in terms of the colour scheme, and it would be easy to make or to create an inverted version as their away uniform.
I really think the Dolphins, as you said, Jack, should have the ultimate throwback as their home jersey. It looks so much better with the darker shade of aqua, and it fits the team so much more. I don't think I've seen anyone online saying that they prefer the home jersey to the alternate.
Yeah.
I've seen so many calls for the alternate throwback to be the home jersey, and I don't see why they shouldn't. The stripes on the sleeve look so great, and they give the jersey a lot more character. And the current Dolphins uniforms right now, they're just very uninspired, and they definitely need to be changed.
Yeah. Before I make a point about the Dolphins jersey, I think it's interesting to see how like these 6 teams on this list, at least half of them, most of them have already got a uniform in their like set that are like
They're great.
great. Yeah, exactly. So none of these teams need much changes. They just need to swap the uniforms around. But that being said, I really think the throwback uniform for the Dolphins, they make a better. They utilize the orange, white, and the darker shade of aqua better than they do in the current home uniforms. Especially the logo looks much better, and on the shoulder pads, those lines, that adds more character to the jersey.
I agree. I do love the design of the throwback alternate uniform. What I'm interested in seeing is, as you talked about before, Anthony, with the white helmet on the Arizona uniform, I feel like the Dolphins, if they had a more aqua-dominated helmet, I feel like that would look a lot better than their current white here.
Yeah, I'm not sure about how an aqua-looking helmet will look for the Dolphins, because they've had that white helmet pretty much their entire existence. I think it might look nicer in theory, but I reckon if they added it in for the 2020 season, I reckon a lot of fans would be like, it's just significant change to what's been a part of the uniform that stood for so long. I think it might look nicer, but it'd be a really big change, and I think a lot of fans might not like it.
It's a fair point.
Now, finally, we move on to everyone's top 5 jerseys in the league, and we'll start with Emilian's top 5.
So at number 5, I have got the Baltimore Ravens black alternate. I think it's a very clean looking uniform. It's my favourite uniform for the Ravens. The subtle use of gold as the outline for the numbers works really well. I prefer it a lot more than to how they've used gold in the other uniforms. And I really like the limited use of purple. If you look carefully, you can see that it's a little bit of a shadow to the numbers, and I think it looks very good. At number 4, I have got the San Francisco 49ers alternate throwback. That is the white jersey with the red numbers and that black shading behind. I think it is such a clean looking uniform. I'm usually not a fan of shadows behind numbers, as I discussed with the Falcons' new uniforms, but here it works so well because the black stands out against that white jersey, and it's such a simple and elegant uniform, and I hope the 49ers wear it more often next season. At number 3, I've got the Seahawks home uniform. this is my favorite home uniform in the league. The balance of colors here is great. They've made the blue the most prominent color, and the lime green is used appropriately on the shoulder pads and a little bit on the neck, and it makes the uniform stand out a lot more. I really also like the pattern on the numbers here. It makes jersey very unique. At number 2, I've got the Chargers' new navy blue color rush uniform. For me, this could very well be my favorite uniform in the league once I see it on the field. I think it works so well for the Chargers. It's a great simplistic look, and the bolts being the same color as the jersey, just with the yellow outline, looks so clean. At number 1, I've got the Saints color rush. Easily my favorite uniform in the league right now. They're absolutely stunning. The gold shines so well, both during the day and night, under the lights, and this uniform is so elegant, and it easily holds the number 1 spot for me.
A question for you, Million. You mentioned at number 5 you had the Ravens black alternate uniform. I'm just wondering, what do you reckon about the numbers? Do you like that on the uniform or no?
I'm not a particular fan of the font of the numbers, but I do think it works well here just because it's just so... The gold outline really makes it a lot better.
Yeah, fair enough.
Now on to my top 5. At number 5, I have the Oakland Raiders color rush. They now have the silver pants to go with the white jersey. I really like it. It's just a really clean look in terms of the silver numbers on that white jersey. I think it's just a really classic look. At number 4, I have the Buffalo Bills color rush. I think Buffalo have one of the best color schemes in the league, and that all red with the nice blue outline on the numbers. I just really like the font. It just all works really well. At number 3, I have the Ravens color rush. I really like the color combination of the gold and the purple. I think it goes really well on each other, and the black helmet is also really sleek. At number 2, I have the Washington Redskins throwback alternate, and as I talked about earlier, I really like the darker shade of burgundy and the gold numbers and pants. The helmet, like I said, could use a bit of an upgrade, but apart from that, it's a really nice uniform. And finally, at number 1, I have the New Orleans Saints color rush uniform as well. The all white works really well with that gold numbers and the gold Saints helmet.
Just want to make a point about the Redskins throwback alternate uniform. Some uniforms look much better. I reckon you guys would agree with me here. Some uniforms look much better, like in the daylight or at prime time or under the dome. I reckon for the Redskins using these during the day, these look like beautiful uniforms. Like you know what I mean? Like that, the sunlight on them just looks brilliant in my opinion.
I think they look good, in the day or night, honestly. But I do understand your point. Arif, time for your top 5.
So, coming in at number 5 for me is the Steelers color rush jersey. I really like how the black and yellow works together in this uniform. The yellow numbers and the yellow area on the shoulder pads works really well with the all black uniform in my opinion. At number 4, I have the Seahawks home jersey. I really do like the color scheme on these jerseys. I love how the green area on the shoulder pads works with the rest of it. Probably one of the best home uniforms in the league, in my opinion. At number 3, I have the Titans home jersey. As I mentioned earlier in the podcast, I originally wasn't a big fan of these uniforms, but after I saw them on the field, I really grew to like them. I feel like the font gives them a really unique look, especially with the Titans name. At number 2, I have the Saints color rush. I think you guys put it pretty well when you discussed it in your lists. Not much else to say about these. They're just awesome, and I really love the gold touch. Now at number 1, I have the Chargers royal blue color rush. I just like to say I'm a huge fan of bright colors on a jersey, so this is probably why this is over the Saints color rush jersey. In my opinion, I think the Chargers with their rebrand probably have the best set of uniforms in the league at the moment. Although I really like the navy blue color rush, I give the royal blue color rush the nod here, and I really can't wait to see them on the field.
I'm just going back to what you said, that you like bright color rush uniforms. If the Rams had kept their brand and still had their all yellow color rush, would that be in your top 5?
I'd 100% say so. I think they'd even be on top of the royal blue here. I really did like the colours and how the yellow was really the main feature of that jersey.
Now we move on to Anthony's top 5 to finish it off.
Alright, so at number 5, I have the Browns colour rush uniform. And the photo that's on the YouTube video here is of their 2019 home uniform with the orange stripes. I still like the design they have this season without it. I think the orange numbers, obviously that's the Browns look, on their brown uniform looks really good. That contrast is just basic and simple. I really like it. So at number 4, I have the Cowboys alternate uniform, or their away uniform. I think this navy blue, it's obviously don't have any navy blue on their home uniform, but I think it works really well against the grey helmet and the grey pants. Especially the outline around the numbers, I think it looks outstanding. So at number 3, I have the 49ers throwback uniform. This uniform is gorgeous in my opinion. I think keeping it basic, having it all white just looks really good. And the main feature here that really gets me is the numbers. Like you said, Emilian, on your list, having that black outline, it just looks really good, and it looks great because it's also they had that in the 90s, so they're building off something they had in the past. At number 2, I have the New York Giants away uniform, and in my opinion, these are the best away uniforms in the league, just because I really like how they have hardly any red on their home uniforms, but in their away uniforms, they utilize that as like that main feature, especially in the socks. The socks look really nice with the red shoe that players like to wear. It looks really good. Especially also with the grey pants is a good change from having just white on white that most teams have for their away uniform. And at number 1, and I don't think many people agree with this, being the best uniform in the league, I have the Eagles home uniform. For me, I really, really love these ones. I think the midnight green, especially in the sunlight, looks really nice, but also incorporating black, not as a main feature, just around the collars, around the shoulder pads, and on the pants. I think they've used that colour really cleverly, not to overdo it. I think it looks beautiful.
Anthony, I have a question a question for you about the Giants away uniform. I heard what you talked about, the red. I was wondering what your opinion was of the Giants colour rush jersey with the blue and the red stripes on the shoulders.
Yeah, I still really like the Giants colour rush jersey, but the thing that would put their away uniform above the colour rush jersey for me is that they utilise that red socks in the away uniform. The colour rush is just all white socks, white pants, white jersey, which don't get me wrong, I really like that as well. But this one just has more character to it, using that that red more evenly.
Yeah, especially with the grey pants as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That wraps up each of our top 5 uniform lists, and that wraps up the episode. We hope you enjoyed us discussing new uniforms, our favourite uniforms, and teams who we think need uniforms. Please make sure, if you haven't already, to follow us on Instagram at TouchDownUnder. We also premiere our videos on Facebook at TouchDownUnder, and we, like I mentioned at the start of the episode, we also release our episodes on YouTube at TouchDownUnder, and we are also on Twitter at the TDU Podcast. Thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you next week.